Hey everyone, how's it going? Happy Friday. Back again with another Facebook Live. And I hope everyone has had a great week and is doing well. Uh, Here in New Hampshire, I'll give you my weekly weather update. It was super hot this week, like way into the 90s, and definitely found myself sweating a lot more, being a lot more thirsty, um, and just overall just really really hot. So I hope if it was hot where you are, you're paying attention to your hydration. I've certainly noticed that mine has increased a lot over the past week just due to the heat. And in addition, I've found that my workouts have not been the best either. So just probably taking some time to acclimate to the weather changes if it's all of a sudden hot where you are as well. It's probably a good thing. So keep those two things in mind. A little nice little tip. Um, yeah. Other than that, my week's been pretty good, pretty busy, but good. It's now not nearly as hot. It's not even getting into the 70s. It was in the 90s earlier this week, so quite a bit of a difference. But I enjoy this weather more than the heat, so I'm not complaining. Anyways, um, what I want to talk about today is kind of spurred by a talk and a post that I heard from Dr. Ben House, which I'll link to in the comments. Um, and then, oddly enough, ironically enough, someone asked about this topic very recently in a forum that I belong to, and so I think it's kind of an interesting topic to talk about and tell you a little bit more about it and my thoughts and opinions on it. And that's really around calorie calculators, and fitness trackers. So the age old question that everyone is trying to always answer is, how much should I eat, right? Because once you know how much you should eat, then you can either gain weight, maintain weight, or lose weight, right? It makes it very easy. So one of the ways that we or people can try and figure out how much they eat is to use a calorie calculator, or look at what their fitness tracker is saying, how many calories they're burning for the day, and try to either eat that amount or eat less than that, etc. So they'll go online, for example, they'll go to Google calorie calculator, and they'll come up to some site, and they'll find enter in maybe their height, their weight, their age, their sex, how active they are. If the calculator is somewhat decent, and probably maybe ask for their body fat percentage, which most people don't know anyways. But that's probably a little bit more accurate way of determining total calories burned throughout the day. But it will spit back a number to them, and they'll be like, okay, well, that's how much I need to eat. And in reality, our bodies are far too complex to be represented by a simple formula like that. Even though that formula probably is not very simple if you look at it, it's still far simpler than all the processes and chemical reactions, etc., that happen in your body on a day-to-day basis, to be represented by that formula. So at best, that number that comes back is going to be somewhat of a guess. And the same is true with your fitness tracker. You look at your previous day, it might say you burned 2,500 calories, and you're like, okay, well, that's how much I burn. Let me just try to eat that amount, or less than that, etc., or more than that, depending on what your goals are. But again, that's just taking into account things like your age, your sex, your height, your weight, that it knows about you, and then factoring in how much it thinks you moved and how intense that movement was, right? And that's also, again, suffers from the same flaws as before, and also the fact that it's really just guessing how many calories you're burning during the activity that it tracks when you're doing, right? So are we to then just take these calculators and throw them out the door and just not use them and kind of just give up on the whole thing? Well, actually, I think no. I don't think that is the right thing to do either. To just because something is not accurate does not mean that it cannot be useful. What I personally do with my clients is I use these calculators. The one I actually like the most is one that I just came across recently, is from Precision Nutrition. I'll put a link to that also in the comments. They have a very useful and kind of, I think it's very useful, as well as interactive type of nutrition calculator online that I think just gives you a report and then some useful tips and tricks afterwards around reaching those goals based on your diet preferences. So I think it's a step above most other nutrition calculators out there. Anyways, I'll go to something like that. I'll enter in my clients or my information. Same thing: their height, their weight, their sex, their age, their activity. A body fat percentage estimate, or if they have like things like a DEXA or a bod information, that'd be useful. Then also input their diet preferences, how active they are, how often they move, how often they exercise, that type of stuff. And then it'll give me some kind of number back, maybe some macro breakdowns, which I don't particularly pay too much attention to, because I like to calculate my clients' own macro breakdowns based on what I know about them. And from there, I put this number into something like Chronometer, which they can use to track their food. And I say, okay, this is what I think as far as total calories that you should be eating. Here's your protein goal, and for the most part, I tell them, eat the amount of carbs and fats that you feel like you want to eat at the moment. And we're gonna go ahead and track both objective and subjective measures for a few weeks to see how you deal with this total amount of food, right? So we'll track things like their body weight. Does it go up? Does it go down? Does it stay the same? How's your sleep? How is your exercise? How's your recovery from your exercise? How's your mood? How do you feel after you eat these meals? How do what's your energy level like? All these subjective and objective measures that we can track. I'll take a look at their HRV if they're tracking that, etc. And after a few weeks, this isn't a day or single day or multi-day process. That usually takes a few weeks to really get a good handle on things. We'll reassess. We'll take a look at, okay, what has the scale done? How's your mood been? How's your exercise been? How's your recovery from your exercise been? How's your sleep? How's your digestion? All these things. And I'll take all that into account, and then I'll say, okay, based on what I see here with all these other markers, I think that this calorie number is too high, it's too low, it seems okay because you're actually maintaining weight and everything looks good, and we'll tweak from there, right? So then I'll move it up, down, whatever, and we'll reassess again. Again, track the same thing for a few weeks, see what happens. Hopefully we're making progress. Some of the things that might have been going well get better or start to trend better. And then you kind of refine that process over and over and over again, so you get to a number where this person is maintaining their weight and everything's good. Sleep's good, digestion's good, exercise is good, recovery from exercise is good, their mood's good, all that stuff looks great. And now you have this number, and you say, okay, at this point in time, this is the amount of food, this is your caloric burn, right? That might be the same number that the calculator gave back, or it might be a few hundred calories off or more in either direction. But now we have this number, right? And we have a starting point. So now, if depending on their goals, if their goal is to lose body fat, then we might take some calories away from that number. If their goal is to gain weight or put on muscle, we might add a little bit more calories to that number. If their goal is performance related or whatever, we're going to use this number as a baseline, and we have something to move forward. So, and to speak to the fitness tracker piece, right, telling you how many calories you're burning with activity, etc. Again, it's not accurate, but it can be a good marker as far as, are you doing more or less activity, right? So if you look at that number and the trend of that number over time, is it the same? Is it going up? Is it going down? And I'll tell you whether you're actually doing more activity and maybe you need a little bit more calories, or is decreasing, and you might need a little less calories, etc. So you can use it as a kind of a benchmark as far as adjusting calories based on activity. So these things aren't completely useless. They give us a good starting point, or they give us a good benchmark estimate in the case of a fitness tracker, and it helps inform. It should help inform your decision as to how much you should eat based on again several weeks of tracking not only calories but also everything else, all the other important things, all the important markers. And it takes a little bit of time, but it'll eventually get you to the point where you do know, okay, this is how much I can eat and maintain my body weight and feel good doing that. And then it makes it very easy to adjust up or down based on whatever your goal is. So you have to put in the work up front, not just go into your calculator and 2 minutes later have a number. You have to spend probably several weeks working out what that number actually looks like. So I just want to talk about that topic. I think it's a popular one. I think it's something that people often struggle with and underestimate. All the work that really goes into figuring out how much you can actually eat in a day and maintain your weight, or what your caloric baseline is. So with that, I'll sign off and talk to everyone next week. As always, if you have any comments, questions about what we talked about today or anything else, please throw a comment here in the comment section. Happy to answer it. You can always direct message me and talk that way. If you're interested in getting all the content that I put out on a weekly basis, you can go to my website at rjbhealth.coach. At the top, there's a newsletter link. You click that newsletter link, enter your email address, and you can sign up for the newsletter, and I will email you everything, including these Facebook Lives on a weekly basis. I promise it's actionable information that you'll find useful. If you're interested in any kind of coaching, I still have a waiting list going, so you can jump on that waiting list by going to rjbhealth.coach and click at the button on the homepage to schedule a discovery call and fill out the form, and that will get you on the waiting list for when I do have some openings. And as always, I'm always happy to help in any way possible, so please always feel free to reach out, whether that's email or direct messaging or Facebook or comments or whatever. I don't really care. And I'll talk to everyone next Friday. I hope you have a good weekend and a good week.